In this episode, we talk about BJP's Abki baar 400 paar slogan and how PM Modi is framing it differently now. We also give you a quick update about India summoning the Canadian Deputy High Commissioner. But first, we talk about the Congress President Arvinder Singh Lovely resigning from his post. Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargava and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. Just a few weeks before Delhi goes to polls, the Congress party finds itself in a state of crisis with its president, Arvinder Singh Lovely, resigning from his post on Sunday. Lovely, who is considered close to the central leadership, resigned in protest against the Congress's alliance with the Aam Aadmi Party, which is also part of the India bloc, and over selection of party candidates. Incidentally, this was the second time in his career that Lovely was resigning from a Congress post. Indian Express's Jatin Anand has been writing about this development for the paper, and he began by telling us what his resignation letter said.
So he has made several points which range from the alliance between the Congress and the Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi, as part of which the Aam Aadmi Party got 4 of Delhi's 7 seats, leaving the Congress with just 3 of the rest of the parliamentary seats in Delhi for these general elections. He has made several points which include issues related to how the alliance was received, how it is viewed within the party, within the Delhi unit of the Congress, because one has to remember and one has to put this in context of the fact that the Congress was in power when the Aam Aadmi Party arrived on the scene. And in addition to making allegations against several other leaders, it is a fact that the Congress bore the brunt as far as public perception is concerned when it came to the allegations that the Aam Aadmi Party would heap upon them and their leaders on a daily basis. So that history needs to be borne in mind. So from that point of view, from that context, he has spoken about how the Delhi unit of the Congress was against an alliance with the AAP, given its history and its association with the party in Delhi.
And besides the larger issues with the alliance, Lovely, he says, has also talked about how the inputs of the Delhi state unit were not considered when it came to who should be fielded for the Lok Sabha seats.
Apart from that, he's also alleged that the AICC in charge, that is Deepak Babaria, who has been appointed in charge for the Haryana and Delhi Lok Sabha elections by the senior leadership of the party, how his alleged interference, how his attitude, how his behavior had become a problem to the point where he claims, where Arvinder Singh Lovely has alleged, that he was not able to function to the best of his ability.
Right, and Jatin, the faction which is close to him testifies to this, right? In fact, just a couple of days back, a former colleague of his, Rajkumar Chauhan, also resigned from the party citing similar issues, and he also blamed Babaria. But talk about what do other members of the party make of Lovely's resignation?
Other members of the party, they have different opinions depending on how close they are to either Lovely or to the national leadership or to other factions, which it is a fact exist within the Delhi Congress. So they are at this point, these are allegations. These range from statements such as he must have cut a deal with the Bharatiya Janata Party or with the Aam Aadmi Party and he must be looking for a sort of an opportunity to just switch to the other side. Now, which side? That even Lovely claims he's not really sure of at the moment.
Yeah, because this is the second time that Lovely is doing this, right? In 2015, he had resigned from his post after the Aam Aadmi Party won the assembly polls. And then in 2017, he quit the Congress after some disagreements and joined the BJP and was welcomed by Amit Shah himself. But then he eventually returned to the Congress.
So after that, he remained in the Bharatiya Janata Party for a couple of months. He would return back to the Congress in 2018, just a year later. And during this time that he spent in the Bharatiya Janata Party, he was not given any post. He was not appointed in charge of any department or was not given any other responsibility by the BJP. After that, he came back in 2018. So although this stay that Lovely had in the BJP did not last long, but given the fact that it is a part of his history, given the fact that it did happen, that has set several tongues wagging regarding whether he was, for want of a better phrase, a sleeper cell for the BJP, and he was just looking for this opportunity to rake up this issue of how he's not being allowed to work, how there are issues that are related to the organizational crisis within the Delhi unit of the Congress, so close to the Lok Sabha elections. So that is one very major allegation that is being spoken about as a possibility that triggered his decision.
And what has he said about this? What does he say when he's confronted about these murmurs?
He has refused point blank. He has, in private conversations with people from the media, including myself, he has termed it an emotional decision. So he has more or less tried to rubbish allegations, including him being a sleeper cell for the BJP and him getting activated at this point at the behest of or at instructions from the BJP. He has also rubbished allegations of, very interestingly, suggestions from several people who are close to him in the party. Maybe he should make a party of his own, start some sort of a political outfit of his own, which is based on an anti-corruption plank. But this time it will not be based on the plank of anti-corruption per se, as in the issue per se, but precisely against the alleged corruption of the Aam Aadmi Party government, which ironically came to power on the anti-corruption plank and then at the moment has most of its senior leadership, including Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, behind bars.
Right, and the other thing is that he wanted to contest from the Northeast Delhi seat, but was miffed about the fact that it was given to Kanhaiya Kumar.
The fact that he was miffed at being overlooked by the central leadership as far as being given the Northeast Delhi Lok Sabha ticket from the Congress, which finally went to Kanhaiya Kumar, that is being said to be one of the biggest reasons why he decided to do what he did. But according to sources close to him, according to people who one can say that belong to his camp, while Lovely was apparently initially told that if he takes the alliance through, if he is able to get the Aam Aadmi Party on board and the alliance goes through smoothly, he would be rewarded by a Lok Sabha seat, and that would most probably have been the Northeast Delhi Lok Sabha seat, because the other probability was him being given the Lok Sabha ticket from East Delhi, which has been his traditional Lok Sabha seat, which he contested last time as well. But East Delhi was not part of, or is not part of, the Congress's share vis-a-vis the seat-sharing alliance between the AAP and the Congress in Delhi. So after that, according to some people in the Congress, that is what really forced his hand, because he felt that the national leadership was going back on its word. But according to sources close to him, he never really wanted to contest, and he more or less has his eyes set on the Delhi Assembly elections next year, in relation to which he is said to be in favor of, or wants to at least, be the face that the Congress projects as its chief ministerial candidate, as the face of its campaign in the Delhi Assembly elections. But let's see how that also progresses, because he is no longer the Delhi Congress president, but he still, we should bear in mind, is a member of the party.
And Jatin Lovely is actually an important Sikh leader in the city. He's also someone who is considered fairly close to the Gandhis. Talk about how important a leader Lovely is to the Congress and what his resignation means for the AAP and the Congress alliance.
I would first like to qualify the bit about him being close to the Gandhis by just citing the example of his previous exit followed by his return to the party. When Arvinder Singh Lovely in 2017 announced his surprise decision to leave the Congress and immediately join the BJP, while joining the party and also being welcomed into it by no less than Amit Shah himself, he had accused the Gandhi family of being the reason behind the dire straits that the Congress was in back then. So his importance can be gauged from the fact that in 2019, he was again given a ticket to contest from the East Delhi Lok Sabha by the same party, which had seen him go out and then welcomed him back into the party fold within a few months. A few years after that, when the Congress decided on conducting internal elections for the post of its national president. So Arvinder Singh Lovely's closeness to the central leadership of the party can be gauged from this particular fact that he was one of the 4 members of the Central Election Authority that the Congress had formed for the first elections of their kind to select their own national president, who now happens to be Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge. I believe he's the first non-Gandhi president of the Congress in perhaps 3 decades, if not more. So that is how close he is to the Gandhi family, or let's just say to the central leadership.
Right, and even besides this, Lovely was one of the few people in the party who made sure that the Congress and the Aam Aadmi Party alliance goes through as smoothly as possible. But also considering that he is an important Sikh leader, could you talk about his support base a bit and how it might affect the Congress's chances in Delhi?
So apart from the fact that Arvinder Singh Lovely is somebody who was fielded after consecutive election by the Congress, served on every successive Delhi Congress cabinet when it was in power during the 3 successive terms when Sheila Dikshit was the chief minister. Apart from this, in his 26-year-long political career, Arvinder Singh Lovely is somebody who has consistently remained the Sikh face of the Congress, which is something that needs to be acknowledged as somewhat of an irony if one were to factor in the fact that the ghost of the 1984 anti-Sikh riots still haunts the Congress somewhere or the other, especially in this city and in several pockets of this city. Arvinder Singh Lovely, after his return to the Congress and being elevated again as the chief of its Delhi unit, the first time he hit the ground happened to be on a Sunday when he went to the very Sikh-dominated Tilak Nagar area of West Delhi, which is not only dominated by the Sikh community but also by people from the Punjabi refugee community who came to India from Pakistan and settled in the city. Lovely conceptualized it. He was the face of that rally. I was on the ground when I covered that. And the crowd that actually happened to be there was actually somewhat surprising in the sense that, in my experience, I have not, in the last 15 plus years, I have not seen any Congress leader be able to, except, of course, Mr. Gandhi, to be able to pull a significant crowd of that magnitude, and that too in an area like West Delhi. He identified himself as Delhi ka Sardar. He quoted from the Guru Granth Sahib. He made a lot of statements which alluded to the Congress's past and how things had changed after that, and evidently was able to catch people's attention and was also seemingly able to build upon that public outreach over the next 6 months, because this was in October, and consistently since then, Lovely has led a lot of local outreach programs. He concentrated on building the organization of the party in the West Delhi Lok Sabha seat, and especially in these Sikh-dominated areas. So, is he a significant Sikh face? Yes, he's a very significant face, and especially when it comes to the Congress. He's definitely perhaps the only Sikh face that the Congress has to show at this point in time.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that Lovely's resignation actually came a day after more than 1,000 members of the Sikh community joined the BJP in the presence of its national president, JP Nanda. But now, after his resignation was accepted by the party, what has been the response of the Congress leadership? Are they worried at all?
The Congress seems to be grinning and bearing it at the moment, because according to several people who saw this episode unfold yesterday, and according to some people from the national unit of the party, the fact that this announcement and this decision and how it unfolded, especially in the public eye, has not gone down well with the national leadership is exemplified by the fact that the national leadership, within a few hours of Lovely announcing his decision to step down, accepted his resignation. Mr. Deepak Babaria, the AICC in charge for Delhi and Haryana, was also the person who came out and told the media that it had been accepted.
अभी क्या स्टेटस है पार्टी की तरफ से?
उनका इस्तीफा का कांग्रेस हाईकमान ने स्वीकार कर लिया है, इमीडिएट इफेक्ट से उसका स्वीकार हो गया है।
सर, लोकसभा चुनाव के दौरान ऐसा कदम उठाना, क्या देखते हैं कितने चैलेंजेस आगे आने वाले हैं इस चीज को लेकर?
देखिए, चैलेंजेस तो हर घड़ी हर पल कहीं ना कहीं से आती है, उसको कोई परवाह नहीं होती, कोई थोड़ी छोटी होती है, कोई बड़ी होती है। ये एक नॉर्मल चैलेंज है, एक ह्यूमन रिसोर्सेज का मामला जो होता है उसमें कहीं ना कहीं गैप फिलअप करने का मामला होता है, हो जाएगा।
There were efforts that were made by the national leadership to placate him, to sort of ask him what was happening, to see whether both sides could reach a common ground vis-a-vis his grouse against Mr. Babaria and the other allegations that he has made. But Lovely is said to have remained steadfast regarding his complaints. So the Congress is so far, of course, it would be wrong to say that they're not concerned, given the fact that he is a Sikh face and he's somebody who has been with the party for as long as he has. But so far, at the moment, the national leadership is said to be concentrating more on finding a replacement, even so if that is as an interim measure or so much so as to be designated as an interim Delhi president or a working president of the Delhi Congress. So they're concentrating more on that compared to placating Lovely and the other way around.
And next we talk about the BJP. Perhaps one of the most prominent slogans this election season has been BJP's Abki baar 400 paar, meaning this time we will cross 400 seats. It's a slogan that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has repeated multiple times in his rallies across the country.
और अब की बार पूरा देश कह रहा है, अब की बार खड़गे जी भी कह रहे हैं। लेकिन अध्यक्ष जी,
Well, it is a slogan that has been used this time, right from the beginning of the campaign, even slightly earlier than that.
That's Indian Express's Vikas Pathak, who writes on the BJP for the paper.
So this began when in one of his addresses, Prime Minister Modi said that, people are speculating as to how much the tally of the BJP and NDA will go. I am not someone who looks at figures in that way, but I would say that BJP alone would cross 370 and the NDA would cross 400. So from that came the slogan, Abki baar 400 paar.
Abki बार एनडीए सरकार 400 पार.
It is a kind of a slogan aimed at both the party workers and the opposition and also the people of India. The slogan aims at projecting that the BJP under Mr. Modi is rising and rising. So in 2014, the BJP came to 282. In 2009, the Congress had got 206 seats on its own. The BJP on its own had never crossed 180, 182 seats. So the 282 was a major jump. It was after, I think, 1984 that a government had come to power with a single party majority. Then after 282, it went up to 303 in 2019. So once it went to 303, it seemed that the BJP was still rising, right? So that is the impression that the Prime Minister wanted to send, that the BJP has not plateaued, it is still on the rise.
He says the slogan was meant to boost the BJP workers, while at the same time demoralizing the opposition. But it turns out that now there has been a change in how the Prime Minister has been using the slogan. Vikas scrutinized about 60 speeches of the PM from the 16th of March to the 25th of April. He now joins my colleague Niharika Nanda to talk about the slogan and how the Prime Minister is using it now.
Vikas, you write that the framing of the 400 paar slogan has changed after the first phase of the elections. So, can you tell us in what way do we see that happening?
The change was this that, in many of his speeches after elections were announced, the Prime Minister used, the slogan Abki baar 400 paar. So the framing in the early usages happened to be very triumphalistic in the sense that, it was more a rallying cry. So in one particular speech in Tamil Nadu, he used it many times.
Abki baar 400 par. Develop Bharat ke liye 400 par. डेवलप तमिलनाडु के लिए, मॉडर्न इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के लिए, थर्ड लार्जेस्ट इकोनॉमी के लिए.
So he connected the 400 par with a number of things that the country would want in future. Similarly, in some speeches he says, "Ab pura desh keh raha hai, sabko pata hai abki baar 400 par," which means that this is a common refrain coming from the people, that the BJP and NDA, the NDA is going above 400, which means that, it's a consensus almost in the country that this is inevitable. So the last time he used it in such a sense was, I think, April 19, the first speech. After that, for 11 speeches, Mr. Modi did not use the slogan at all. And when he did use it in the 11th or 12th speech after that, the framing changed, which he has also said in a recent interview to one of the media houses. He said, "Why is it that Modi wants 400 seats?" He's saying that in the rally. And he said that Modi wants 400 seats because the Congress wants to deprive the SCs, STs and OBCs of their reservations and of their rights and divert what they are getting to its own vote bank. And in order to prevent the Congress from doing that, Modi wants 400 seats. So the framing changed from a triumphalist rallying call to more of a shield for the deprived sections among the Hindus. So that was a change in the framing.
साथियों, ये मुझे सवाल पूछते हैं, 400 पार क्यों? मैं जवाब देता हूं, आप जो राज्यों में हथकंडे अपना रहे हो, दलितों के, आदिवासियों के, ओबीसी के आरक्षण चोरी करने का जो खेल खेल रहे हो, उसे लूटने का खेल खेल रहे हो, आपके ये खेल बंद करने के लिए, हमेशा बंद करने के लिए, आपके मंसूबों को हमेशा हमेशा ताला लगाने के लिए मोदी को 400 पार चाहिए. मुझे दलितों के आरक्षण की रक्षा करनी है, मुझे आदिवासियों के आरक्षण की रक्षा करनी है, मुझे ओबीसी के आरक्षण की रक्षा करनी है. और
This happened a few days ago, which means after April 19, the 11th rally. It was April 24 when he said this particular thing. So this happened on April 24th in one of the speeches.
And this change in the framing is also happening after the opposition has been saying that the BJP will change the constitution if they do get over 400 seats this time. But Vikas, as someone who has been going through PM Modi's speeches, could you talk about what promises he has been making?
Look, generally in the speeches, when he talks about these promises alongside, the slogan, the promises have not been very specific. It is like, one related slogan is 24/7 for 2047, which means that the Modi government wants to work day and night to make India a developed country in 2047. It also says, they had a yatra called Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra. By 2047, which means 100 years after independence, India will become a developed country in the world. Now, the details of how India will become a developed country, what is the fine print of that, what are the details of the policies that are to be followed have not been discussed as much. So this is a catch-all kind of a slogan. It does not go too much into specifics. Though in many speeches the Prime Minister has said that India would go on to become the third largest economy of the world, for which he wants the third term. They have also said that they will implement the Uniform Civil Code. But along with the slogan, it is a generalized thing. You will have world-class infrastructure, you will have good employment, skill development, prosperity, but the details are often not being talked about.
And Vikas, we are having this conversation when 2 phases of the elections are already over. What do things look like for the BJP right now?
Well, of course, we cannot be very sure about what will happen till the election counting happens. But there have been a couple of causes of concern for the BJP. One, of course, has been that many reports from the ground suggest that rather than having one grand narrative, the elections are becoming very localized. There are contests on many different seats based on different kinds of arguments on the ground. In fact, I went to Bihar. There is no clear wave in Bihar either way. And every seat seems to be different from the other seat. Caste is still very much an aspect of how seats are being distributed or contested. Similarly, in Rajasthan also, I hear that it's a very localized election. In Maharashtra also, there are many local factors that are playing out. So, if the election becomes very dispersed, constituency by constituency, a single narrative of Modi ki guarantee does not seem to be coming across as the main issue. One. Second, there has been a slight dip in the polling percentage, which has concerned the BJP and its workers, because the question that is coming to their mind is that why are fewer people coming out to vote? Secondly, the dip in voting is deeper in states where the BJP has been powerful. So it's states like UP, Bihar, Maharashtra, where the voting percentage is falling, which is not very good for the BJP. In Uttar Pradesh, for example, the highest voting percentage was noticed in the Amroha in the second phase. Now, Amroha has more than 50% Muslim population. It saw a turnout of 64%. But if you compare it with the particular constituency with the lowest Muslim population, in these 8 seats of the second phase, that is Mathura. Mathura has 8.5% Muslims, and the voting percentage dipped by 11 percentage points. It came below 50%. For instance, Ghaziabad saw poor polling. Sahibabad constituency, which is very urban and bordering Delhi, I think the voting was something like 43%. So that enthusiasm in the middle class seems to be missing a bit. It is possible that fewer Hindus compared to Muslims are coming out to cast their vote, which is not great news for the BJP. It is also possible that the election is happening when the heat has soared, the temperatures are going high, that is at the peak of summer. That may not be working. So all these things to begin with have not been great news for the BJP, but we'll get to know only when counting happens.
And next we talk about Canada. Yesterday, India summoned the Canadian Deputy High Commissioner after pro-Khalistan slogans were raised at an event in Toronto addressed by Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The Ministry of External Affairs conveyed its deep concern and strong protest over such events continuing unchecked in Canada. A statement by the ministry said that this illustrates once again the political space that has been given in Canada to separatism, extremism, and violence. It added that such expressions had not only impacted India-Canada relations, but also encouraged a climate of violence in Canada, which was a detriment to the country's citizens. Addressing the Khalsa Day parade in Canada's capital, Trudeau said that his government was working towards enhancing the security at community centres and places of worship.
Sikh values are Canadian values. Truth, justice, openness, compassion, service, human rights. These are the values at the heart of Sikhism. These are the values at the heart of Sikh Canadian communities, but they're also values at the heart of all Canadians. To the nearly 800,000 Canadians of Sikh heritage across this country, we will always be there to protect your rights and your freedoms, and we will always defend your community against hatred and discrimination. That's why we're enhancing the security infrastructure program, adding more security at community centres and places of worship, including in Gurdwaras. Your right to practice your religion freely and without intimidation is exactly that, a fundamental right guaranteed in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms that we will always stand up and defend you for. We will stand with you once again on this wonderful day of celebrations. Happy Vaisakhi. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Waheguru ji ka Khalsa, Waheguru ji ki Fateh.
Now, relations between India and Canada had turned frosty after Trudeau last year alleged a potential link between the Indian government and the killing of a pro-Khalistan leader, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, in Canada. India had vehemently rejected the allegations, terming them absurd and baseless, and had temporarily suspended visa services to the country. Back then, we had spoken to Indian Express's diplomatic affairs editor Shubhajit Roy about how Canada sees India's demand to clamp down on the Khalistan movement in Canada that demands a separate state for the Sikh community. Here's what Shubhajit told us about the Canadian view and India's demands.
Well, India's main core demand is that, if anyone is making any statements or has ideas or thinking of hampering India's interests, as a friendly government, as a partner, you should be responsive and sensitive to that, and you should take action against those people. So it expects Canadian government to take action against these pro-Khalistan elements, figures, groups. Canada obviously always maintains that it's a free society and there's a freedom of speech. These protests are peaceful in nature. So it doesn't see them as threatening Indian government or Indian society. But the truth lies somewhere in between. As we know that if these elements sort of harm Indian embassies or target Indian diplomats by naming them in posters, it does pose a threat. But only making statements, for example, or shouting slogans doesn't always may not be seen as against Indian interests. So there is a sort of a grey area there. So I think the issue is that both sides have to talk to each other on what are the red lines and what is the red line beyond which Canada needs to take action, and what should be the reasonable red line that I think Canada has to convey that to the Indian side.
You were listening to Three Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and was produced by Niharika Nanda and me, Shashank Bhargava. If you liked the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.